Welcome to On the Point Podcast, a podcast for all things Overwatch with a heavy focus on League, discussing roster moves, weekly matchups, unfortunate plays, merchandise, and pretty much everything else that comes with it.
Yeah, just the whole Overwatch League bag, really.
And we have two weeks worth of play to catch up on
3.
right now. 3. I'm behind.
A little bit.
It's been fun. It's been busy. It's been insane.
Hopefully this comes out before week 4.
Well, that's the plan. That's the plan.
That's the plan. We're both very busy.
Yeah, oh my god, we're both insane. I'm Katie, I'm the casual.
I'm CJ, and I'm the one with a problem.
You're the expert. In terms of this podcast,
Yes.
you are the expert.
I will just continue to deny that, though.
You do the research,
Yes.
I say dumb shit. That's how this works.
I did the research and wrote 9 pages for this podcast.
You did. But it's 9 fully dictated pages of notes as opposed to 9... Yeah. 9 pages of bullet points. So we're going to try to go for, let's see, 90 minutes,
Yeah,
maybe?
I think that's reasonable.
10 minutes per page.
Yeah, I think...
Except my stuff is bullet pointed at the end, and that might take longer.
Well,
Yeah.
would you want to start with the thing you were talking about on the way over here?
I think I hesitate to say front load, but let's do the first half, the actual league analysis, and the latter half, we will talk about Batiste, we will talk about merchandise as provided by Fanatics, we will talk about being an Overwatch League fan as a whole, and how to improve the experience for yourself and others. But for now, let's get into some numbers. Let's do this.
Yeah, okay, so first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go through the teams, talk about some general trends, and see how those could serve them in coming matchups. First off, we're going to go through the Atlantic Division, starting with the Atlanta Reign. They're a team that's done a really remarkable job of putting its pieces together, considering what a multicultural roster they are, how many different, countries and languages, and how few of them have played together before this.
This is the Diaspora team done well.
Yes, in the same way that Philly was in Season 1.
And I'd argue still is.
Yeah.
They're solid.
Yeah, they do. Like, most of my problems with them, and I'll get into that later, stem with how they interact with the meta as it currently exists. Anyway, Atlanta, they rarely look out of step. They're great at really brawly comps. They've clearly had some good strategies for the teams that they're facing, like up against Paris. It was stuff Cruz and stop him from setting up, big plays from Ben Best and then melt Ben Best. They've got really great pocket strats for different maps to keep opponents on their toes, and they only seem to get better and more creative every time we see them do things.
We saw them pull out the Reddit strategy with Lucio and Zarya and the down vertical grab. Everyone's going to be staring at the roofs now.
Oh my god, yeah. And thank you, Defran, for ruining solo queue for me again. But I like, from watching his stream as sort of as research, and just also because sometimes I just like seeing nutty plays, I can almost imagine him being like, "Hey, Masa, come over here. We're gonna go up, and I'm gonna go." Like, and I can almost imagine him narrating it, being like, "Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go, dude!" Like,
I mean, there are worse things for Defran to have ruined. Let's be real.
True.
I am amazed that there has been no negative press. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, no,
Let's keep it up.
Yeah, he seems to be really keeping it together, and the dude has some depression and anxiety issues, but on his stream he's talked about making use of the sports psychiatrist or psychologist, I forget which exactly, that the Atlanta Reign has hired, and it's been good for him.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway, Atlanta's next game is up against the Gladiators, who have been struggling, and I feel like that's going to be a fairly decisive victory for Atlanta, barring some unforeseen improvement from the Gladiators. Chengdu should be, and yes, it is Chengdu. Yes, because just Chinese translation.
Because Chinese pronunciation and English speaking.
It doesn't
tongues.
Translate 1-to-1.
Of course not.
Anyway, Chengdu should be an interesting test to see how they deal with some unorthodox stuff, and how well they can really study and tailor strats to suit a very unique opponent. Outlaws, their next opponent, will be interesting as well, provided the Outlaws of the past 2 weeks show up. But if Atlanta plays against Paris, I don't like Houston's chances.
Yeah, They seem like a team that's been doing their research.
Yes.
That has been watching other people play and that has been tailoring their play to, you use the videos. You always do. This has been a sports thing for forever.
Yes.
They seem to be using it very, very effectively.
Yeah, and just big ups to Sefi, Brad Rajani, their main coach and I think general manager. Dude has been in the Overwatch scene for a long time. And just seems to be really one of like the MVPs for putting this roster together and making them as good as they are.
Yeah. So for one of our expansion teams, they have been incredibly solid.
Yes. But Old Guard, Boston Uprising, although I say Old Guard, but they're mostly a new roster.
Well, some of the Dragons, there's
True.
a number of teams that have done that.
Mostly I'm just saying Old Guard is what I have a problem with because really there's only 3 players from last season still on the team.
Like Shanghai.
Yeah. So anyway, Boston's a team with a lot of potential, but they still have some problems to overcome as well. Fusions is an insane main tank, and watching him play Ryan just makes me happy in my heart. And he's a really good in-game leader. Like, if you're there, you can hear him fucking shouting orders. It's great. But he gives his team a lot of its on-stage coordination. Note, great on the D.Va as always. He's good at landing his combos, eating grabs, finding out of position enemies to hop on and pick off. AimGod also does a lot of good work on his Zen. Like, he didn't look great in the game against Toronto, but generally speaking, he's pretty good. The thing is, they don't really have like a star damage dealer player. Color Hex has had some good matches where he's keeping up with the enemy Zarya, and he's also had some bad ones where he's getting picked off early due to some bad positioning or communication, maybe not being 100% there, and he gets picked off, and when you're Zarya and you die, you lose that charge, and that, more than even most heroes, that really sets you back in terms of what you can do if you're not staying alive.
And they've also said, statistically, I think 93% of fights, if Zarya dies first, they will lose that fight.
You will win 5%.
Okay, 95% of times you will. That was 2% off. That's not bad.
No, not bad at all.
That's a gallon of milk.
Yes.
Anyway.
Jesus Christ.
So Color Hex tries his best and does not always succeed.
Yeah.
And then?
Blase and Kellex are both servable, but they have these occasional little missteps that'll cost their team, where there'll just be a decision that I'm like, I don't know about that. And more often than not, they're good enough to power through and win the day, but sometimes these issues add up. And when they do, that's when Boston seems to struggle. I'd be interested to see Alemal play more, but Alemal was kind of like one of the main shot callers in his teams in Brazil. So maybe they're trying to keep the channels clear because Fusions is the one giving like all the driving force, and maybe they just want to try and keep it, the whole Robert Baratheon 5 or 1, the open hand or the closed fist.
And you don't want 2 opposing shot callers. The Valiant actually had issues with that last season, where they had to figure things out and would occasionally argue over a call, and that's a problem.
And Seoul might be having that now, but we'll get to them.
We will get to them.
Anyway, Boston Uprising. Their next opponents, the Florida Mayhem and the Dallas Fuel. Florida still hasn't really come together and might not be able to match Boston man-to-man. Dallas, meanwhile, is a pretty similarly hot and cold lineup. If they play confidently, it could come down to who makes the bigger mistakes, and I feel like the Boston Uprising has more people prone to those little moments.
So blue versus blue should be an interesting match.
I think it could be very close.
Possibly more psychological than skill-based.
I think it could be. I think they're very similar in a lot of places, and anytime I'm going to get to see OG and Fusions butt heads, that is going to be very fun for me as a tank main.
All right, so we touched on Florida. Let's move on to them.
Yeah. Anyway, better than last year's model, but they still kind of have a lot of work to do to get to where they need to be. Swan's an improvement over SNT, but his performance is still kind of inconsistent, and he doesn't really quite seem to be in lockstep with all of his teammates. Like, Hagapun in their most recent game was playing out of his mind when he was on Ana, but he had to keep using his nano boosts to keep Swan from dying. and that kind of stopped them from getting the value out of them that they could have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Zephyr, despite being the Scrim god, still kind of seems to underwhelm on the main stage. Tvik has some flashes of his old self, and when he gets to sort of do his thing, it tends to be good for his team. And one of the biggest improvements, though, is that they now have a support line that will survive fights and not blow their ultimates.
Yeah.
Like, it's made a big difference for the team.
Does it help that the support meta is so different in this stage?
I think so, because you have very clearly defined conditions of when you want to use support ultimates in 3-3. Like, you want to save that trance for Grav. You want to save that beat for Shatter. And there are other conditions where you would want to use them, but generally speaking, that's your rule of thumb.
Yeah.
That's kind of easier to follow. There's less longitude to mess that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, they picked up McGravy from Team Envy, a player from American Contenders who's been around for a while. Originally a Tracer main, but kind of really sort of hit his stride in the off-tank position. And honestly, I think he looked very good for someone who's only had 3 days to scrim with the team.
All right.
And I think he'll have a big upside when they really have a chance to incorporate him into their team structure.
So this team is Jello that's only been in the fridge for an hour. It's got some setup, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, and I think that they still have some fundamental weaknesses that will need to be shored up in one way or another, be it through coaching or pickups, but they have promise. They don't look as... they don't look just one stiff breeze away from falling over as a framework.
Yeah, the only thing that saved Florida from being the bottom-most team last season was the Dragons.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not the case this season.
Yes. Their next
now it's the Justice.
Yeah. The next opponents are Boston and, appropriately, Washington.
Washington.
Boston looks to be the stronger team all around, but, I'd say Washington looks winnable.
Hashtag winnable. I feel so bad for that team.
Too.
And we will get to that later. They're going to be like the last ones we talk about.
Yeah. Houston Outlaws. Talked a little bit about them, but let's get more into that.
I love me some Outlaws.
Yes. And they are a team full of very gifted players who are in a meta that I don't think suits them.
Oh, no.
And they also just genuinely seem to have some trouble firing on all cylinders, like as a unit. They're in the middle. They were a middle-of-the-pack team last season and suffered some really heartbreaking early losses now. Linkser looked kind of rough on the Brigitte. Raucus had some positional mistakes that winded up costing them, and that was kind of a theme with him last season as well. And they just seem to have trouble adapting to GOATs as a meta due to their nature as kind of like a team of very specialized individuals.
Yeah.
And they also don't seem to do as well when Jake isn't there on the stage to really sort of coordinate the team. They look better recently, though, getting some wins against Hangzhou and Florida through some stronger coordination, making fewer mistakes, and taking the opportunity to play their game when it's presented to them. And the difference really shows, because on average, in 3-3 comps, their fight win rate percentage, meaning the amount of times they go in and win a team fight, is 44.8%. On 3-3.
That's...
On DPS heavy comps, it is 71.17%.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference for these guys. More than, obviously I think it makes a big difference for a lot of lineups, but more than most, I think Houston is hurt by this metagame for a variety of reasons.
I think GOATS is just a killer meta, and so many people who specialize in DPS are just out.
Yeah.
Because it's a meta that doesn't play to them and straight up removes half of the character pool from the game. Straight, because we have damage, tank, and support, and straight up half your heroes are damaged because they wrapped attack and defense together. So, yeah, half your hero pool is gone from the game, and if you were picked up for a team because you've got 4 good DPS characters and 1 okay off-tank, suddenly your role is okay off-tank. Well, and that's rough.
Yeah, and, the other thing is, if you look at Houston specifically, a lot of teams have a DPS player. Usually they have a good Zarya and then a dedicated D.Va player. In this case, you have Cool Matt, dedicated D.Va player, Spree, really, really, really good Zarya, who can also flex onto the D.Va now, but that means that you have to dedicate some... But In a lot of teams right now are taking the opportunity on certain maps to run Sombra instead of Diva. Mm-hmm. Which one of them is going to play Sombra? Yeah.
And then who's your Rhine?
Well, you got Muma, but
This is true.
yeah, Muma.
I need to not forget about Muma.
Muma, I don't think they're gonna put him on Sombra. I don't see that happening.
No.
Anyway, their next games are against the Valiant and against Atlanta. Valiant, I think, could probably be a win for Houston, but just because I think Valiant struggles with goats, especially with Reinhardt goats, could allow for more longitude for DPS play that Houston can really sort of, get in there. Atlanta doesn't really have those weaknesses and has the wherewithal to be able to force unfavorable matchups on Houston.
And they will do their homework, and they will find out what Houston is not great at, and they will make that happen.
Yes.
Because that seems to be the sort of team Atlanta is. In terms of the match for the Valiant, I just really want the green team to win.
Oh, yeah. I like them.
I really like the green team.
Yeah.
They're pretty great. They're pretty great.
Up next.
And to everyone going, wait a minute. Yes, that's the joke. There's always at least one, and I love them with all my heart.
It's true. Up next, London Spitfire. They've Gestures Reinhardt is still kind of his weakest main tank, but he's been looking stronger in this past week. Birdring was kind of hurting on the Zarya, and shifting Prophet over to that spot and then putting Guard on Brigida duty seems to be a better lineup for this team that really sort of lets them bring their firepower to bear in the most effective way possible. They're still a team that's very poorly suited to goats. And a more DPS heavy meta is going to be more beneficial for them and their talent. But they are adapting. They're slowly they didn't look great on the more tank heavy compositions towards the end of last season. They still look rocky on them now. They're getting better. I just don't know that they're adapting quickly enough to get them through the stage playoffs now.
Oh no, I think what we're looking at now, we may have some switch up, like looking at the rankings, you got 1 through 20. I'm seeing some switch up maybe between 6 and 14, but I honestly don't think that our bottom teams are ever going to make it to the top, and I don't think our top teams are going to drop.
Yeah.
I think it would take a lot for either of that to happen. And NYXL is already confirmed to be in the finals, and I'm sure that Vancouver will be after their next match, regardless of who it's with, because they're Vancouver, but we will get to that.
Yep. Speaking of next matches, London. Their next match is going to be against a very game Shanghai that, despite the C9, heard round the world. I'm so sorry, Youngjin.
Oh, baby, no. I was watching that live and just kind of going, what?
Yeah. How? Yeah, that was brutal.
He probably feels
honestly
so bad.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of Dallas had EMP online and they were about to have Shatter as well, and that's a very dangerous combination. So Shanghai might have wound up losing that, the next engagement anyway, and it might not have made a huge difference.
But getting through that checkpoint.
Well, no, they got through the checkpoint. They got the checkpoint.
It never clicked. That's why they didn't have that extra time, and it was a C9.
Well, I thought you only get the extra 30 seconds on...
You get extra... I'm pretty sure you get extra time every time you hit a checkpoint. I might be wrong when we're hitting overtime or double overtime, and yep, we're looking it up, because that is what we do. We make sure we have our facts.
I'm pretty sure you only get that on assault maps, only on 2CP.
Okay. Well, we shall see, because, if the point had taken, usually you get extra time. Just generally speaking.
I think that it's only for assault maps.
Hang on. Well, I was going to say, it had a thing. It had a thing if you go back. Anyway, this was a very disappointing C9 regardless. Like this, if the attacking team managed to get an intermediate checkpoint during overtime, the extra time is added and overtime ends with the game proceeding as normal. So I think even if we start in overtime like we did with these rounds, you get, even if it's just an extra 30 seconds.
But then why was the gate open? Because he walked right through.
I don't know. Regardless. Well, they wouldn't have all moved forward off the payload to do the next engagement if they weren't going to get that extra time. Anyway. Regardless, this was very sad and very disappointing, and I feel so bad for them because they might not have won that next round, that next engagement, rather. But getting through that checkpoint was just, it was a necessary thing, and they were not able to do it.
Anyway, despite the C9 heard around the world, they've looked very good in recent outings. Good enough that London's going to need to put their best foot forward if they want to win. They got to play like they did against the Spark. Seoul could go either way, and we will discuss that, when we get to Seoul.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, we'll get there. There are 20 teams.
Yes. NYXL.
These guys.
Not much to say other than, good shit. Keep it up. Their play's been really airtight. Mono has looked incredible on main tank, and despite not making a lot of, the really big flashy plays, deserves to be in the conversation for, best main tank in the league. Nene has been a really good addition. He's been awesome on the Zarya. And all the strengths that this team had last season are here in spade. And they really seem to have adapted well to a metagame that, along with kind of, overconfidence, scuppered their playoff chances last season. It's genuinely scary, too, to think that they're going to look even better in a more DPS-heavy meta, where they really get to show off the full flexibility of this ridiculously stacked roster they've put together.
Yeah, Pine hasn't played. Or hasn't played much.
He doesn't play Zarya.
Yeah, he doesn't. Again, we touched on this with Houston, but it removes your DPS players from the equation. So everyone's like, where's Pine? And I'm like, if you put Pine out in this meta, you're going to put a gaping hole in your defenses, and people will take advantage of that.
A lot of bench boys. Anyway, next matches. Their final match is going to be against the Shock, which will give them probably their biggest test to date. They're going to be facing a team that has similarly good coordination and strategy and also an assload of flexibility. It's going to be interesting to see how their more reactive style fares against San Francisco, who I think are going to try and push the issue.
Oh, yeah. San Francisco's been doing so well this stage.
Yeah.
Very proud of my NorCal boys.
Mm-hmm. As you should be. Mm-hmm. Up next, Paris Eternal. They've looked dominant in most of the Goats versus Goats matchups they've had, and
got away from you there, didn't it?
Yeah,
Goats on Goats.
Yeah, Goats on Goats.
Bah.
They were winning really convincingly until they went up against Atlanta, who really took them out of their comfort zone in so many ways. A lot of their play kind of gets set up by Cruz, sort of pushing people around and creating some disruption, and then the rest of them kind of slam into it.
And Atlanta did not let them do that.
Yeah, no, Massa was on Cruz's ass and just stopping him from really doing anything. Paris really struggled to adapt. They got punished for getting cute with the Symmetra play on control, and generally looked like they got caught flat-footed by the more flexible comps, the unorthodox play, the aggressive engages from Atlanta that just never really let them build up any momentum. The key to beating Paris seems to be putting them off their stride and then forcing them to try and adapt on the fly, because they did not look like they could do that in that matchup.
They're a machine. Throw the rails.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of good DPS players, not as great on the tanks.
Honestly, though, I feel like they have a really, really good tank line and a lot of people who are really good at playing the 3-3. I just think they've gotten a little too complacent at just playing this composition very well. Because here's the thing. Goats is easy to play, but it has a lot of complexity and little differences in how you approach it that can make a huge difference as you get to a higher level. Because it's a composition that's really enabled by the interactions that these heroes have. And knowing how to use these cooldowns and coming up with... Basically, coaches keep saying that there is levels of complexity to this that they keep finding. And Paris seemed to get content at being very good at playing it, and just didn't really seem to have much else in the bank there.
So anyone can make steak and potatoes, but not everyone is Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we're starting to look at Gordon Ramsay levels here. All the different ways, all the different complexities, okay. All right.
Well, I also think it's just...
Food metaphors tonight.
Well, I think maybe a better one would be anyone could do steak and potatoes, but not everyone's got the rest of the menu.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, these problems, I think, are going to make the upcoming week hard for them. Vancouver are incredible at the 3-3.
Because they're Vancouver.
Yeah. Their coordination is ridiculous, and they're even more aggro than Atlanta. And Shock are also incredibly dangerous and have the roster flexibility to pull off some stuff that's going to force Paris to have to adapt or die. And both matches are going to hold them to the fire. When they make it through that, they're going to have an easier time with Justice. Philly could go either way, and speaking of Philly, we'll go into why right now, because here's Philly.
Yay, Philly!
Another team that I think would look a lot stronger in a different meta. Jane may have been going for some hyperbolic trash talk when he said their goats was garbage, but despite how good Philly is in a brawl, they haven't nailed down this comp in a way that I think they need to. Sato doesn't look particularly great on the Rhine in 3-3. His Winston's better, but Winston isn't always the ideal pick on maps that don't have a lot of high ground. And with Rhine, you can just sort of bully point and force people to come to you and fight up close, and you will win that against a Winston.
Yeah.
Carpe looks good on the Zarya, but he isn't setting the league on fire the way he does with his DPS play. Mm-hmm. And the same's true of EQO on the Brig. Mm-hmm. Fraggy, honestly, might help give this team a little extra fire because he's a very good aggressive Rhine player with a bunch of experience playing goats and also has played with these people. But Philly doesn't seem eager to bring him in. They also looked really shaky when Boombox was out sick.
And to everyone who said that he should be playing while he's sick, stop that.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Also, if people are sick and they're just slower and sloppier, they're not going to be giving you 100%. And on that stage, less than 100% is going to get you farmed.
They're not going to perform well. They're going to be miserable. Then, you know, if they have something that's contagious, the next person to sit in that seat is at risk of catching it as well.
Yes.
And it's going to take them longer to recover because they're not resting. Mm-hmm. So this, again, we're going to get into this a little more when we talk about the fandom, but please chill. Please chill. Please chill. You don't like working when you're sick? Don't ask other people to do it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Philly's next two matches are against the Valiant and Paris, both of which could conceivably go either way, but I feel a little bit better about Philly's odds against Valiant.
I'm going to go hide under the table. Don't mind me.
Valiant's had days where they haven't looked completely lost, and they both have some difficulty with Reinhardt. And Valiant, like, they've had times where they seem like they could get the win off of a very good team, but they just haven't pulled it together.
I mean, we're 4-0, but a lot of those were close ones.
Yeah. You mean
0-4. So, are we 0-5 at this point?
I think so.
Oh, God. Regardless, a lot of those were 2-3, you know.
2-3.
Lots of 2-3s.
Close 3-1s. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if Valiant plays well, there's a shot, though I would still feel more confident about Philly's chances. Paris is dicier, and it requires Philly to stuff some of Paris's key players or pull out some unexpected stuff that will kind of throw Paris off balance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're going to go into them just straight 3-3, I don't think Philly's good enough at it to win out against Paris.
Okay, that'll be interesting then.
Yes. Up next, Toronto Defiant. I wasn't sure how well this this lineup was going to hold together in Overwatch League, just because a lot of these guys are people that I personally, just like watching them prior to this, never really considered them starter quality, and I was wrong about that. They put on some really good individual performances, like Yakpung, Ivy, and Neko especially. They show that they're more than capable of hanging with pretty much whoever you put them against. They still have some problems functioning as a cohesive unit. Like there's an overstep here or a missed ultimate there. And it's nothing massive, but it's something that could cost them in big team fights where like the tight, cohesive play that they showed off against Boston would have won the day. And that's going to make it interesting to see how they do against their next opponent, which is Chengdu.
Because the Hunters are fucking crazy.
Well, yeah.
I love their playstyle, but they're fucking crazy.
They don't have Jikiren, and Among is mostly known for his Wrecking Ball. So it forces them...
We'll get there. Yeah.
It forces them to play this unorthodox composition.
But it's so much fun to watch in a world of goats.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be a good test of their coordination, not getting split up, and how they can shut down Among's Wrecking Ball. If they can play together and deny him, they have a good shot. Hangzhou is a little bit harder to say.
Hangzhou's been... We'll get to Hangzhou.
Yes,
They've been such a weird team, right?
Yeah.
It's been weird.
Yeah, confidence, maybe communication, like there's stuff going on.
And I threw in as a Spark fan, like, I got my pink team, let's go. And now it's been like, guys?
Well, you had a good week one.
I did! I had a good week one for Hangzhou, not so much for the Valiant, but goddamn, that match was amazing.
I mean, has there been a good week for Valiant yet?
No, there was last season.
There were several of those last season.
There were many good weeks last season. But again, we'll get there.
Up next, Washington Justice.
Bless them.
Washington looks rough.
Washington,
plain and simple.
They look like they're this stage's, possibly this season's Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah.
Maybe not that bad, but the way they're shaping up, they're looking like the farm team, and that's not good.
No, it's not. Especially, like, it's hard to peg down exactly what kind of went wrong, because there's rumors of, like, budget cuts kind of scuppering their ability to pick up people that they were trying to. There's also the fact that Wizard Hyung, their head coach, was New York Excel's strategic coach, which means he's the guy who would come up with varied compositions and strategies to really take advantage of the strengths of his players. And in a meta that requires you to be good at a specific set of things and doesn't really give you that much longitude for flexibility, it could make them look even worse than they kind of already would. But
he can make a bunch of things pretty well, but goddammit, he's stuck on the steak and potatoes.
But the other thing is that he was a strategic coach, and that kind of requires a different set of skills than being necessarily a coach geared around like player improvement or scouting. It's a different bag of tools that you need to do these two different jobs, and Wizard is very good at what he does, and we'll see how well he does at the rest of it.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of these guys aren't people that I would have put on an Overwatch League team. They do have some promising individual players like Jonas and Otto, who I think both definitely deserve to be there, but they don't seem to be on the same page as a unit. Their team play and their target focus leaves a lot to be desired. Their ultimate usage is often questionable. Like, I see a lot of double support ults from them.
You don't need that.
Yeah, for those of you at home, using two support ults at the same time is bad.
It's a waste.
It's a waste because if one of them isn't going to keep you... They're slow to farm. If one of them is not going to keep you alive, you're kind of fucked anyway. And then you don't have your other support ultimate, say, if their Zarya has Grab or their Rein has Shatter. If they do one good play, if that Rein shatters and both your support ultimates pop, then that Zarya is just like waiting for them to run out. Grab! Like, yeah, and you get fucked with that.
And two of your usual supports for this comp are Lucio and Zenyatta, and so you're looking at range of effect, boosted healing. So putting them on top of each other, there's no point. There's absolutely no point.
Yeah, and they're also just kind of lacking in overall firepower. Like, just as an example, Guido, he's a perfectly serviceable Zenyatta, but he isn't on the same level as the insane Zenyatas who can pump out incredible damage numbers as well as healing that you see all over the Overwatch League. He just doesn't do those same things, and as a result, he might not have been the best person to put on that spot.
Not everyone can be Jonak. Let's be real. Jonak is terrifying.
Yeah, but Jonak's not the only one who does that.
For me, the name that comes to mind is Izayaki, because obviously I have a bias, but he's good.
Izayaki, Unko, Shu from the Guangzhou Charge, like, they can all put out some damage and really contribute to a team fight with more than just the heals or the discords.
Yeah.
And Guido doesn't seem to really have that ability, and that's kind of a problem with several players on the roster.
Not a bad Zen, but
Yeah.
not up to the standard that this league is putting out.
Yeah, exactly. Their team play needs a lot of improvement before they can really start being competitive, and I would not be surprised if there's going to be some roster moves between stages, be it pickups or drops. Seoul, Paris, and Florida are up next, but I am not hopeful for that first Washington win this stage.
I mean, if they're going to get it, it would be Florida.
Even then, Florida looks just better than them.
Yeah. Yep, it's this season's Shanghai Dragons, and that is so difficult because, and this is going to sound terrible, but you'd think everyone would learn.
Yeah,
You'd think everyone, like, you'd look at a 0 and what, 42, 50 something?
40. Well, they got the first win, I think, at their 44th match overall.
Yeah, but we're not counting from, in terms of numbers, I stop at the season because
0 and
otherwise
40.
you're going, oh, they're 1 and 44. Like, no, they're 1 and 2. Hush.
Yeah, they were 0 and 40.
Yeah. You would think that teams would look at a 0 and 40 team and learn from that experience. And I don't, again, I don't know if it's budget cuts. I don't know if it's shot calling. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know what it is. But it does not look like Justice has learned that lesson.
Yeah, I will say one thing that they're not doing that Shanghai did. There's not a shit ton of redundancy in their roster where, like, they had, like, 2 Lucio mains and 2 hit scan and, like, 3 hit scan players. And that was, like, all of their DPS or just 2 guys who played Div. Like, that roster had a bunch of people who did the same things, but they were missing some very key things. Hypothetically speaking, you have someone for every position here. Maybe not the best people.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be ready to play together either. Anyway,
It's some oil and water teamwork, and you don't
Yeah.
want that. You know what? I'm going to stick with the food metaphors tonight. They are working for me.
And that transitions nicely to our sponsor. I say hopping on that segue.
Yeah, speaking of food, On the Point is sponsored by Fred's BS, Breads and Spreads by Fred. Fred's BS is an LA local one-man baked goods business that offers unique flavors in small batches. Whether you're looking for homemade jams, brownies, blondies, or brown sugar buddies, the best cookies you've ever had, Fred's BS can provide. All products are made in small batches with fresh ingredients, nothing is ever frozen, and Fred provides a plethora of flavors that can't be found in stores, like the aforementioned brown sugar buddies or his strawberry peach paradise sunrise jam. Also, if you're LA local, you can choose pickup instead of delivery and get your goods even sooner. Head over to fredsbs.com and use coupon code ONTHEPOINT for 20% off your entire order. That's fredsbs.com, FREDSBS.com, and coupon code ONTHEPOINT. Fred's BS. Treat yourself, because you deserve it. Those
Hell
cookies
yes.
are amazing.
I need to order some now
I
that I
know.
actually have cash.
It has been too long. And LA local pickup has occasionally gotten me cookies or brownies fresh out of the oven. Oh yeah.
That makes me happy.
Oh yeah. And when the weather starts warming up, get a warm cookie, put ice cream on it. Yeah. Yep. Do them, you guys. They're wonderful. Do
Yeah.
the thing. Obtain
Yeah.
the stuff. Treat yourself.
Supports us, and trust me, you will be thankful.
Yes.
Anyway,
Alrighty. Let's go Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific Division now. Up first, Chengdu Hunters.
The crazy people.
Yes, well, Chengdu has a really bizarre playstyle, kind of out of necessity. They don't really have access to Jikiren yet, who was the main tank for Miraculous Youngster.
Visa issues, right?
Yes, and also they picked him up kind of late.
Okay. So visa
yeah.
and delay issues then.
Yes. Emong, who, by the way, his team history is just a fucking litany of the best names in Chinese Overwatch, just as Legend Young Beyond, Moss 7 Club, Big Time Regal Gaming.
Didn't they used to show Moss 7 clubs on Sunday mornings on ABC Family?
Yeah, I think it was on the Fox box, but yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
they used to show the 700 Club
Oh, right.
on ABC Family on Sunday mornings, and I'd get real mad because that was the end of the cartoons. Anyway, those are all crazy Mad Libs, and I love it.
Chinese contenders' names are often spectacular.
It's
It's like they name their teams by whipping dictionaries at passing helicopters and just gathering whatever bits fall down. Like,
It's thoroughbred naming.
yeah, it's thoroughbred shitpost bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because for those of you going thoroughbred naming, for a thoroughbred animal, be it a horse, a dog, whatever, to have a pedigree and to be named, it cannot be named anything that ever came before it.
Because you
So-
gotta register that shit.
You cannot have two dogs named Fluffy. Even if the first dog named Fluffy lived 150 years ago, you cannot have two dogs named Fluffy. So
When we're talking like show dogs registered with like
Yes.
kennel clubs
yes,
and shit.
yes, and thoroughbred horses and whatnot, which means you start getting these really, really weird looking names that
Yeah.
are mostly 3 letters and oftentimes colors or nouns, because that's the only way you can pick something that hasn't been done. It's like trying to find a username on a popular site, but you can't use underscores or special characters, and you have to do separate words.
I frequently have on sites with those rules have an account called Unique Usernames are Garbo.
That is a really good thoroughbred horse name.
Thank you.
Garbo for sure.
I was gonna say another good one is what was the bit from the RT podcast where Gavin's just like, could you imagine if you could like just decide to just die and if you just thought of certain things, and Gus is like Orange Monkey Eagle, like
And again, the Tumblr post that made fun of it was, it's basically thoroughbred shitpost bingo. And someone went, that's a good horse name.
that would be a good horse name.
Yeah, it's also a really good way to generate passwords,
Yes.
is figuring out what some weird pedigree or thoroughbred name would be, and then remember that.
Yes.
Because they're usually long enough to hit password counts, and most people will never be able to guess them.
Yeah.
This has been your tech support tip for the day.
And it's a good one.
Thoroughbred shitpost bingo.
Anyway, the fact that they've got Among and don't really have someone who's more well-versed and more known for traditional main tank play leads them to play a lot of Hammond and triple DPS comps. It's weird, it's tricky to, play against, and it makes some good use of their DPS players, despite Jinmu being fucking insane and doing things that only really work because the rest of his team's like, fuck, follow Jinmu! Like,
I mean, this is a team. I really need to stop calling them crazy people because that's not fair and is kind of mean.
but they don't play like they're completely sane either.
Their play is bonkers.
Yes.
Their play is especially bonkers when we are so accustomed to seeing triple tank, triple support, very specifically these 3 tanks and 3 of these 5 supports.
Jinmu-
And then we roll out with Pharmacy and Hammond and take an entire map in 60 seconds.
Yeah, and, like,
it was insane.
And Jinmu does other weird shit in that he'll pull out his like Dragon Blade in front of a Brigida and somehow just not get bashed and murdered. Like, it's weird, and he just doesn't give a shit. It works more than it should. But anyway, there's a reason that this kind of play isn't meta, and that other teams only use it on certain maps and certain points within those maps. If a team plays together and sticks close to their Brigitte or Sombra, the Hammond can get bashed or hacked and focused down very fast.
Oh, yeah.
If there's no disruption by the Hammond, this comp doesn't get purchase. And, likewise, a team could just ignore the Hammond and just bum rush the rest of the team, which is all really squishy.
Because Hammond has no shield. Hammond has a personal shield, but Hammond
yeah.
does not have a shield
He
for
disrupts,
his teammates.
he does not protect.
Yeah. He's called Wrecking Ball for
Yes.
a reason.
But anyway, yeah, similarly bad for the team playing this. If teams can adapt and do these things, Chengdu struggles. If not, they pull their opponents apart at the seams.
Chengdu is basically running a shock trooper comp.
Kind of, yeah. And we'll see how well it works against their next opponents, Toronto, Vancouver, and Atlanta.
Toronto, maybe. Vancouver and Atlanta, good luck.
They have the best chance against Toronto, I'd think, who occasionally has trouble playing as a unit, but they're looking better every time they come out. And Vancouver is playing out of their goddamn minds, and
Oh, yeah.
Atlanta, if they've scouted Chengdu half as well as they've scouted Paris, Chengdu's fucked.
I mean, we're a 2-person podcast, and we, and by we I mean you, have scouted Chengdu. There's no way that Atlanta hasn't done the same thing and prepared for it.
Yeah. And, of course, Chengdu has variations that could, throw people off, but...
But your main and only tank is still Wrecking Ball.
Yeah.
And there are some glaring weaknesses to that.
Yep.
I love them. I love watching them play. It's super fun, again, especially in a world of goats right now. For the love of God, please introduce Batiste to the meta. Just do it. Just do it.
Well, when that happens,
Stage 2.
When that
Stage
happens,
2.
we're gonna have a lot more Arisa Diva.
Thank God, I love Orisa.
Yeah, that's kind of apparently on the PTR been like the strongest comp that pro players have found.
I mean, as long as we tip the card on goats,
Yeah.
let's just go. Even Dive had more variety than this, and I got so tired of Dive.
Well, the thing is, Dive had more iterations over time. Goats has more viable variants that happen at once. It's just they don't play as differently as Dive. Because with Dive, you could have Genji Tracer Dive, you could have Widow Tracer Dive, Widow Genji Dive, and there's like different variations of those things. Like for a while, like having a soldier with Dive was very good.
Dive also seemed to be, just in terms of just being a spectator, a flashier comp. It was more fun to watch. And I know that that's pretty dang shallow, but that's the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Part of Overwatch
Unless
League
you
is,
really like tank play.
yeah,
Yeah.
part of Overwatch League is very much catering to the fans and putting on a show for the fans, because that's why they tune in, they give bits, they buy the merch, they do whatever. You've got a contract with Disney XD to bring in even more viewership. Like, and if it just continues to be goats, and I know it doesn't play out the same every time, but I did not like Dive by the time it ended, but it was more exciting.
Yeah.
A Dragon Blade is usually more exciting than a Grav, at least to watch.
Yeah.
And that's shallow as hell, but that's definitely how I see it.
No,
and there's
I
a
get you.
reason that...
And a lot of people are getting fatigued with it. Like, again, as a Reinhardt main, I'm fine with this comp because it lets me play Reinhardt after I had to play Winston for like 6 seasons straight. And I don't mind Winston, but Reinhardt's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it lets you go destroy the world.
Yes.
And that's fun. I just...
Well, I've climbed like 300 SR the past couple seasons.
Yeah. I just remember being at Overwatch League and watching Houston play against NYXL. Oh god, that was such a difficult match. And hearing Houston fans, or everyone, start booing when they would come out with a fun comp, see that it was goats, see that they were not going to win this team fight, and turn back around and switch to something that gave them a better chance.
Which, honestly, like... that pisses me off, like, booing teams for playing the meta. Because you can not like the meta, but what the fuck are they gonna do about it?
They're professionals that are paid to play, and the best way to win is to play the meta and to play it well.
It's like...
Chengdu's doing okay playing counter meta, but this week might change that.
It's like asking pitchers not to throw a fucking fastball because it doesn't break, and that's less interest. Like, it's... if there's a fucking tool to use that is good at what it does, they're gonna fucking use it.
Yeah.
Does it get old? Yeah. But don't boo the fucking players.
Yeah. It's not their fault that they're doing what they need to do. They get paid to play at a professional level, and a good amount of the incentive is to win. If you get to the playoffs, if you win the playoffs or place, you get extra money for that. That's a good thing. And so getting mad at them because they're playing to win, and sadly playing to win means that they have to play this comp that is not super interesting to watch. Let's be fucking real about it. That's terrible. Stop that. Stop being terrible. Do better.
I would still say that it is interesting. You just need to really pay attention to microplay. It's not flashy. Like...
you just used the phrase microplay.
Yes.
You understand a hell of a lot more about this than I hesitate to say the average fan, but a good chunk of fans.
No, it is true.
And when you don't have the microplay, the nuance, a lot of that, it's the same thing.
Yeah. No, and I'll admit it's a minority opinion. Anyway.
No, just a different level of experience.
Again,
that's why I hesitate to say the majority of fans don't know, because that's not true.
Even a good number of people, and I would say most that I know, who know more than me, would just rather not. Like, just don't care for it.
On the one hand, goats is boring. On the other hand, quit being mad at people for playing goats.
Yes.
Ta-da.
That's the long and short of it. Anyway, next team, as we've gotten derailed for a little bit, the Dallas Fuel. One of my two boys. We've kind of got a tale of two Fuels going on. In their games against Shock and Charge, Fuel looked nervous and sloppy despite some impressive individual plays. When they're on, though, they look capable of putting on a good series against almost anyone. Zachary might be a bit shaky on the Brigida, and Effect hasn't really hit his stride to sort of come into this, but OG and RCK look a little better every time they come out. AKM looks fantastic and really brings a lot of coordination to the team on the field. And Unko and Closer are they're gelling really well in the back line. If they keep this trajectory of improvement and they don't let setbacks put a dent in their mentality as a team, the Fuel could really make a good case for themselves by the end of this first stage and, erase doubts that people have about the validity of their wins against Shanghai and Philly, because Shanghai C9'd, and even though they might have won the next fight, still C9, and that, they immediately looked way worse on the next map, although they did lose control 2-0 at the beginning anyway. But
a C9 on one map doesn't mean that the whole thing is invalid.
But it's a C9 on map 4 when it was when Shanghai was up.
But Dallas still had to win the next map.
Yeah.
Regardless.
But they might not have gotten to that, is what some people say.
Hypotheticals.
And also the fact that when they played and beat Philly, they didn't have Boombox. Look, some people will say that, hey, you didn't beat them at their best, so it's not an effective demonstration of their ability.
At this point, I'm just going to just Will Smith at the numbers and say, doesn't matter. Absolutely does not matter.
I agree. And not just because I like the Fuel.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Fuel ever. They're kind of in that middle roster of, they're playing. That's a thing for me.
I just love them because it's envious.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you get to invalidate their wins because, you weren't playing them at their best.
Well, it's not even necessarily invalidating their wins so much as it's this doesn't necessarily prove that they're at the top level yet. Which, as much as I like them, they still have a way to go.
Well,
yeah.
Armchair shot calling.
Next opponent.
We're not doing that.
Next opponent, rematch against the Shanghai Dragons and then Boston Uprising in week 5.
I am amazed that scheduling put them back-to-back 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy.
They had to play Shanghai a lot in season 1.
That is super weird to me.
Yeah.
Huh. Anyway.
So these are both matches with the potential to be very tough. Shanghai has a hard week ahead of them, and they're going to be looking to avenge their previous loss, especially considering how they lost Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
Fuel will be looking to assert that their win, was more than just exploiting a slip-up, and they've got both teams now have some first-hand experience with what the other can do.
So possibly a better match.
We might see a more competitive match, or we might see a more one-sided map if one of them's, done their homework a little better and is ready for the quiz.
All right.
Boston's harder to get a read on because they've had some impressive series with good teams and then struggled in other places. But if the Dallas we saw against Seoul and Fusion shows up, Dallas has a good chance.
They're kind of doing what Valiant did for the first couple of stages last season, which is which Valiant are we going to see play today?
Yeah.
So it's a very similar situation, and you never know.
Although they've looked consistently better and better after that third game, because it was lose to Shock, beat Seoul, and then lose to Guangzhou, and then they've won the next 2.
Yeah.
So
and Guangzhou and Shock have both been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Shock, I'd say more so, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but we're getting to Guangzhou right now.
Yeah, and here's Guangzhou.
Here to Guangzhou. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Here's Guangzhou.
Lots of individual talent on this team. A lot of really good teamwork to bring it all together. Rio looks awesome on main tank, better than I really knew he had in him. Hotba's impressing on off tank and DPS. Kib does a good job on the Brig and has clearly helped him sort of master 3-3. Shu and Chara are fucking rad and doing very well for this team's back line. As a unit, they look a little better every time they come out. And if I really had one big problem with them, they try to commit to fight they've already lost and turn them around. They stick in it too long, and it'll cost them ultimate, or it'll feed the other team more ult charge and stop them from really getting back into the fight quicker.
They haven't figured out how to cut their losses.
Yeah. It hasn't hurt them too badly yet, but it could very well keep them from getting wins over the very top tier teams when they play them.
Yep.
And their next two opponents are the Gladiators and the Titans.
Gladiators, not so much, sadly.
Yeah, Gladiators are definitely ailing, and Guangzhou should be able to take it. But you can't, I'll say you can't really sleep on a roster with as much talent as the Gladiators, even though they are struggling. Titans will be an interesting rematch, and it'll be interesting to see if Guangzhou manages to make the necessary changes to survive Vancouver's well-coordinated ultra-aggression.
Vancouver's a scary team. The matchup of I don't even know if it's going to happen this stage. I haven't looked this far ahead in the schedule. But the matchup will be Titans and NYXL. And maybe that's going to happen in the finals. Literally the last game of the
regular season.
Oh, and probably the finals.
Yeah.
Alrighty. That will be bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Up next, Hangzhou Spark.
They've had such a weird season.
Yeah. This roster's stacked. They made a really impressive debut, but after that debut, it's been harder for them. Gushui, No Smite, Rhea, Godsby, IDK, Bebe, they've all done some really great stuff in various matches, but they've had some odd decisions regarding when to commit to fights, when to use ults, when to call it quits, and it's resulted in them losing a fair number of matches that you would have put them as the favorites for on paper. Especially after that week 1. Gushui dies first very often, especially as Reinhardt, which makes you wonder, are there some communications issues between him and his Korean teammates? Or is he just too aggressive in the wrong moments and needs that extra little bit of help coaching?
Because we saw him more on Winston in the World Cup, did we not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
meta was a little more,
Well, no, honestly, you could get away with more now. It's just a matter of World Cup is a little more uneven.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's more parity in the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
So they've talked about having some nervousness, and that's been maybe an issue for the team. And they have the potential to perform. We've seen them do it. They just need to iron out those issues before that form can become consistent.
Yeah, they looked like they were going to become a power team, and then we've just watched. They'll do 3-1s consistently. They'll pull it together for that last map, and it's you're 3 maps too late.
Yeah, and I think part of it's because they kind of have read the other team by then, and partially because the pressure's off. Mm-hmm. So Toronto Defiant is their next opponent. On paper, this could be an even fight, and I might even put Hangzhou as a slight favorite. But you have to remember, Hangzhou's hopes of getting into the stage playoffs hang on this match. And if nerves are an issue for them, that could sabotage them rather than motivate them.
Yeah, that's stage fright.
Yeah.
Stage fright. And that's such a... Stage fright and performance anxiety are two names for the same thing that are very laden and they're not always accurate.
It's true. Up next, Gladiators. Bum, bum, Gladiators. Bum, bum. One of the only two that I think have their own individual walkout music.
Yeah.
It's them and Soul.
It's them and Soul. I thought the Valiant had it too. They've done their own.
Individual walkout music?
I think so. I could be wrong. Anyway, this is 3 of my teams right in a row here.
Yeah.
It's almost like I have a Pacific bias. Anyway.
They looked ready to make some real waves this season due to, insane individual talent, really strong existing synergy for most of the roster, competent and creative coaching staff, but the pieces just haven't come together. Roar doesn't look like the frontline badass that he did in Korean Contenders, and has only kind of turned out to be statistically average across the board. He's not really better or worse than the league average Reinhardt, and it's kind of... Maybe he's facing better competition, but the people he was playing against are all over the expansion teams.
And we're also coming down from Fissure.
Yes.
On this team, and that's a hard adjustment.
Yeah, and the other thing you got to keep in mind is that he went 8 rounds with the team that would become Vancouver Titans, and on the last couple maps, he was out playing Bumper. So, doesn't seem to me that it's just he's not as good as the competition. He seems to just be out of step with the rest of his team, and maybe that's a language barrier issue, considering Like half the team is Korean and half the team isn't, and they can't play Bishu right now because Bishu is sick and hasn't had any, has missed a lot of practice.
And again, stop asking sick people to work.
Yeah, and Bishu was the person translating between the Korean and English players real time in game. So you're missing that connective tissue, and maybe bringing him in over Void will help bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And we'll see when that happens. Decay has looked a bit better on the Zarya than Sherford did, but he's not the game-changing, like, fucking howitzer that the Gladiators were hoping to bring a lot of firepower to the team. At least not yet.
They've also only had him for 1 or 2 games. He just turned 18.
Yeah. Gladiators' backline, still rock solid, fortunately, and this does, the team has a lot of upside if they can get this roster to the well-oiled machine level that they were at towards the end of last season.
Yeah. Yep.
Their lives are going to get harder before it gets easier, though. Their next opponents are the Atlanta Reign and the Guangzhou Charge, both of whom look very strong right now.
Yep.
Gladiators have, a non-zero chance of winning, especially if they play the way that they did against the Shock. I just don't know that I'd pick them over their competition in this case.
Possibly the Charge, definitely not Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that's going to be rough because Atlanta's going to be the game that I'm there for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up next, Valiant.
My boys.
We predicted that they might come into the season looking a little bit rough with the loss of Soon. They lost a fair bit of firepower, and that kind of seems to be the case. I didn't think Fate would end up struggling with Reinhardt in GOATS as much as he kind of seems to be. Space does some good work eating grabs and landing bombs, but he gets caught out a lot.
He overextends sometimes, and it just hurts to watch.
Yeah, and I wonder if some of that is because armor now absorbs less damage. Instead of reducing damage by 5 points per hit, it reduces it to 3.
Yeah.
Or so by 3.
Not being accustomed to that yet.
Yeah, that could be part of it, and also the fact that he can't absorb incoming damage quite as readily, maybe, and has to be more judicious with his defense matrix because of the cooldown. Kariv is an alright Zarya, but he isn't the damage dealer that the team needs to make up for the difficulties that they're having at other frontline positions.
I mean, he's a solid support, but I've seen him do some crazy DPS. And again, this is a meta that does not support DPS.
Honestly,
and you have other supports on the team.
I feel like Kariv is fine as a DPS player, but you need better than fine at this level.
Yeah.
Izayaki's looking awesome, though. Kuki and Kusta seem to be having a little bit of trouble, and I'm not quite sure what the deal is.
I don't know what's going on between... And again, they've made it clear that this is a coaching decision, whether it's to start Kuki or to start Kusta. But isn't Kuki a tank main?
Yes, he, in fact, played tank for Seoul for a little bit.
So we have a tank main in our support main spot when he starts, and you're alternating your main shot callers on the team, depending on whether it's Kuki or whether it's Kusta.
Yep.
And that's a huge problem. Yeah. Because I would imagine that they would have different styles.
Yeah,
and that a Kusta-led team plays differently than a Kuki-led team. And my God, Kusta was on the Mercy all the time last season because that's what the meta required, but he's a damn good Lucio.
Yeah, and I will say it also makes me kind of wonder how much Damon did for the team, because Moon's still head coach, but Damon, one of their other coaches, is now on Paris. So makes me wonder, if they're missing something behind the scenes as well. The speculation, though. I don't really know the internal workings.
And I mean, I've been watching Kusta's streams because that's me, and he did explain after that first week when he came out and then immediately left, and we all kind of went, what? He did explain that, it's a coaching decision, and that's all he said, and, don't press him. He can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But
but it just doesn't look like this tank line or their DPS players have talents that suit them well in a 3-3 meta. It's just not translating.
It's another team that's getting chewed up by goats.
Yeah.
What a great phrase.
It's extra heartbreaking because they've had these series where they look competitive and they're not completely out of the fight. but individual struggles and the larger problems of that they seem to have coordinating goats keeps them from bringing it all together in a way to get they need to get the win. I'd be somewhat surprised if they didn't look to pick up an extra DPS player who can do the Zarya, depending on what patch the next stage is played on, or an extra off tank between stages, just to see what that might bring to the table for them.
I think a lot of this is also going to depend on when are they going to switch patches? When is Batiste going to become a part? Because it took them forever to actually bring Brigitte in for the league patch.
Yes.
So when is Batiste going to come in? Because he's going to shake shit up.
Yes.
And yeah, I
also
think that's...
the Baptiste patch comes with a ton of buffs and nerfs for other heroes too.
Because they're trying super hard to break goats.
Lucio gets nerfed, Orisa gets buffed, Junkrat gets buffed, like...
Zen gets nerfed.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a lateral step for him. One thing gets nerfed, another gets buffed. But
yeah, but it still changes the gameplay.
Yeah.
Because once a meta gets set in stone, the devs go, okay, but what if we did this?
Well, also, the thing is, with a game like Overwatch, there's so many different heroes with so many different playstyles that getting it to be a perfectly balanced place is almost fucking impossible.
Oh, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and it just kind of... You can only just keep changing things in a way that'll keep it fresh, really. Trying to do 100% balance is kind of a fool's errand.
Oh, yeah. And our
Try
current,
for it, but, I don't know what that looks like.
It's the goal, but don't expect it. And I mean, our current meta, again, knocks out half the hero pool. Mm-hmm. So you want to try to tweak that or break that as soon as you can because, again, it knocks out half these characters that you've created to play. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Anyway, their next opponents, Philadelphia and Houston. Both have had some struggles with goats, but Valiant might not be in a position to exploit those problems for the win.
I mean, I'm certainly hoping against Philly, largely because Thursday is the Valiant Spirit Day, which is why I'm going to be in the arena on a weekday, which is not normal for me. But yeah, realistically, they will have really had to have pulled it together to do it against both teams. And again, for Philly, it's they make some mistakes, and for the Outlaws, it's which team is showing up today.
Yeah, and Outlaws, I think, is the one they have the better chance with, but we shall see. Up next, San Francisco Shock, a team that a lot of experts rated very highly, and on some of the matches they've lived up to that, and on others they have fallen short of it.
Well, that's the story for everyone except for Vancouver and NYXL.
Well, yeah, but like but like Monty and several others had them at the number 1 spot, and sometimes they lost to the Gladiators. They're the only team that's lost to the Gladiators.
Yep.
But yeah, the roster's incredible flexibility is kind of their biggest asset. They've got someone for literally any eventuality you could want as a coach, and they're all very good at what they do. Their backline is exceptionally strong, especially now that they can put Violet out there. And their ridiculously stacked DPS line is also just as strong. The only real weakness they have is at the very front, at the main tank position. Smurf and Super are both good main tanks, but they don't have the direct impact on the game that a lot of their peers do. They generate the space their teammates need to be successful more often than not, and being able to do that is one of the biggest metrics for being a good main tank. Like, KD isn't necessarily the most important thing in the world, or having super impactful plays. If you are setting up your team for success, you're doing it well. But the thing is, when they're up against top-tier main tanks, people like Mono, or like Bumper, or, just...
I know Soul's having trouble, but I still put Fisher up there. He's
a
damn good tank.
When you're up against tanks that can create that space and have the ability to pop off as well, they seem to kind of hurt in those matchups. Super and Smurf routinely put up some less than impressive numbers, and, if it comes down to a match where you have a bunch of people firing on all cylinders and their main tank pops off, that could hurt the Shock. Mm-hmm. When they're shut down, when they're not shut down, I should say, San Francisco's flexibility and their coordination and their ability to pop off just carries the day. If they face equally capable opponents with better tanking, they suffer.
And their next match is NYXL.
Yes, NYXL and the Paris Eternal. NYXL have done an amazing job of neutralizing the strengths of their opponents, and have one of the best main tanks in the league, which could be enough to get them the win if they play well. And Shock needs to bring their A game and be just as well studied with NYXL, because this is going to be a game that, if they both play well, will come down to knowing your enemy better.
Yeah.
Paris could be an easier match if they follow Atlanta's blueprint, but Paris might have the edge in a straight-up battle of 3-3 if they can't sort of put Paris on the back foot, or, make or take them outside of their comfort zone. If they can't do one of those two things, then Paris might have the edge.
So Shock's going to have to be consistently good this week.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that it's doable. And I would probably give them the Paris match. NYXL, I don't think I would.
That'll be an interesting match.
It will be close, and it'll be competitive. I don't know that I'd give them that one.
And again, it's not going to be the match.
Yes.
But it'll be an interesting one.
Seoul Dynasty. Once again, Seoul isn't really setting the world on fire in the way that people might have hoped for back on Inven.
Early season 1, they were the breakaway team, and then it just stopped.
Fisher has looked good, but he hasn't really, lit it up in the same way that he did for the Gladiators. Seoul just doesn't seem to have the decisiveness or the killer instinct that you expect in a team captained by Fisher, or at the very least, they don't have it often enough. I've heard some of the commentators say that maybe he and Jexay are kind of muddying comms, because Jexay was one of the shot callers for Element Mystic, and maybe they're, kind of pulling the team in opposite directions when they're both trying to take charge when shit starts to break down in a fight. But who knows? I certainly don't.
Yeah.
Either way, Seoul seems to have a hard time sticking together when fights really bog down and turn into brawls. Voice crack.
They're fighting.
Let me get some water, guys.
But yeah, they're having trouble keeping it together in ways that we were not expecting, given the caliber of the players and the new additions.
Yeah. And a lot of the time this kind of them splitting up results in Jae-Hong getting murdered, and the fight just kind of snowballing from there.
And Jae-Hong tilts.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. He also, Zen has never been his best hero. He's kind of struggled on it historically.
Eaten by goats.
Well,
yet again.
Well, here's the thing. Ana wasn't meta for a good while before.
This is also true.
That's not a goat's unique problem. There are bright spots, though. Like, Michelle and Fleta are putting in a lot of work. Jexay looks good on the Lucio. Ryu Jae-Hong might struggle on Zen, but he can still pop off from time to time, and the ability to threaten that is a powerful tool. And, of course, Fisher.
Who's better?
I said Fisher, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no one more handsome. Their next opponents are Washington and London. Washington should be a fairly easy win for Seoul, I think. And I don't want to be toxic by saying that, but I don't think that's...
That's not toxicity. That's understanding Washington's level of play versus Seoul's level of play. And they're not at the same level.
They're not. And it could be an opportunity to help sort of tighten up their game. Maybe experiment a little bit if they feel like it. And they might need it for London, again, depending on which Spitfire shows up.
Yep.
Up next, Shanghai. Finally got some wins.
Thank God.
Yeah.
The arena exploded that night.
Oh my God, I was
nuts.
watching it. I didn't go down, but I was watching from home, and oh my God. Anyway, Gamsu seems to have solved their main tank woes and has clearly improved his Reinhardt play. And along with DM and Ding, he's given Shanghai the front line they've never had before. Equally shored up the back line, Youngjin, Koma, and Luffy being really consistently valuable parts of the lineup. They're still shaky in some places.
Charlie Niner.
Big old letter number. They've yet to really put up a convincing showing against any of the teams we'd call, top of the heap, but they look like they could improve to a place where that's not inconceivable anymore.
Yeah.
And I just really hope that they can kind of incorporate Geguri and Dia more, because I want to see them get a win too.
And that's part of what's weird to me, is when they got Geguri, she was an incredibly talented Zarya. Like, Zarya was her
Yeah.
main, to the point where people were accusing her of cheating and she had to do a hand cam. Like, it was a whole big thing.
Yeah,
She's
they've
also
just never really played Zarya with her in Overwatch League.
and she's also an incredibly talented diva. She had
Yeah.
middle of the pack numbers while playing on a back of the pack
Yeah.
team, which tells you something about her as an individual player. And
Mm-hmm.
now we have a meta that's very diva and Zarya heavy, and Geggery is nowhere to be seen, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, and the thing is, Ding's I think part of it comes down to Ding is a good diva as well, but he can also flex onto the Sombra.
And if they choose to run that.
Yeah, they want that extra flexibility, and they've used it to great effect. Like, Ding's Sombra has been really good. And the other thing is, on maps where they might do 3-3, Ding can pull out Pharah, too.
But then what about DM Zarya?
What about it is really good. Like, Yeah.
That's what I'm at. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it's not. I'm saying Geggery's is also really good.
Yeah.
So what was behind this decision is what I'm wondering.
I think part of it might just be because the majority of the team is with Youngjin, Koma, Luffy, and Ding. They all played together before.
Ah.
They have a lot of existing synergy, and maybe DM just slots into that a little better than Geggery does for whatever reason.
That is possible.
Yeah,
I still want my precious frog.
Yeah. And also, I think if they're doing compositions where they might try and do triple, DPS, like if they're playing on Busan, DM could Widow.
This is true.
Yeah. I think a lot of it just comes down to the fact that they have other people who can perform the job to a similar level while also giving them greater flexibility. And that's kind of why Geggery's on the back burner right now.
I mean, I get it. I'm also just personally very disappointed that
Yeah.
the only woman in the league,
Yeah.
the only female player in the league, is currently warming the bench. Just
Yeah.
like, come on.
No, I agree, and I agree, but I'm trying to I think that it is for valid reasons, even if I don't like it.
Yeah.
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 I don't think they're being dicks or they're trying
no.
pigeonhole her or anything. But yeah, I hope that she gets to be on the stage for a win.
Yes.
Shanghai's next opponent, Dallas Fuel and London Spitfire. They played a very tightly competitive game against Dallas. It's hard to say how much of that final result is a factor of their morale being broken following the C9. Like I said, Fuel was about to have the ults they needed to win, or probably win, come on anyway, and they won a map type 2-0 that they won previously in the match 2-0, so
yeah.
who can say, but that match could go either way, especially now that these rosters have some experience against each other and a little something extra to prove.
Yeah.
There's going to be some fire in there, and I'm excited to see it. London's a little shakier, because, again, if their issues playing Reinhardt-based comps come up, Shanghai could definitely take that.
Which is saying something. Shanghai Dragons beat London Spitfire. What?
Yeah, that would be a fucking trip, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
And
I'm rooting for Shanghai.
yes.
Total bias.
Up next,
And last,
Vancouver Titans.
the other crazy team.
Yes, I fucking called it. Vancouver were going to be one of the best rosters going into the league, and they are 100% living up to that hype.
Vancouver came in with a pedigree.
Yes.
I think
Run
they're one of
away.
the few expansion teams that did, in terms
Yeah.
of signing a full roster.
Yeah, they're one of the only ones that just signed a complete roster. I think they are the only one that just signed a complete roster. Mm-hmm. And this roster, for the most part, has been playing together for well over a year. Bumper's hyper-aggressive Reinhardt is fucking incredible, and I can't believe that he stays alive through half of the shit that he does. He routinely gets away with things that should get him fucking murdered in the parking lot by other teams. Partially because he's that good, partially because he's fucking insane and you can't practice against crazy because you don't know what the fuck is gonna happen. And also his team is so ridiculously good at covering for each other. Their peel is so fucking nutty. Janu fucking devours Gravs. That motherfucker is hungry. He hits huge bombs. Soyman Su looks fucking great on the Zarya. Haksal never seems to be out of place on the Brig. Slime and Twilight are just one of the best support duos in the league. They're a roster of amazing players, and they have synergy for days, and it's hard to see anyone but NYXL having a shot at stopping them right now.
And I can tell you're enthusiastic because you just said fuck like 10 times, and it was not in your notes.
No, it's not. I don't think I've said...
I think you fucking like them.
I don't... Mikey fucking likes it. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Runaway, the team that became Vancouver, were pink sweater-clad nerds who didn't have a sponsor until like 3 seasons in. And despite being a bunch of nobodies who were getting paid out of pocket by one of the biggest streamers in Korea, and he and his wife paid for all of their shit, bought a team house for the guys to play in, couldn't get fucking sponsors. They went deep against the best teams in Korea over and over again and came up this close. And I'm holding my fingers apart, very, very small distance, to beating all the best teams in Korea. They were everyone's favorite underdog that came within inches and just never quite put it together until they did. And the result is what you see now.
Again, they came in with a pedigree.
Yeah, and it makes me sad to hear like the silence in the arena, because I don't think all that many people who routinely go know the full story.
Oh no, there are a lot of people that are. I have a friend who actually got into Overwatch League this season for the sole reason of there is a team even relatively near my geographic location.
Yeah,
she's in Spokane.
Oh yeah,
and so she's like, hey, there's a team to me. Oh, it's Vancouver. Oh, those are really good colors. And I'm like, yes, they're good colors. They chose blue like so many other people, but they didn't choose red, white, or black. Also, they chose green. So she's like, they're basically Seahawks colors.
They are, because they're affiliated. I think their ownership is.
Are they?
I think so.
Oh, that would make sense.
I'm gonna fucking...
But she's been hearing about... She plays Overwatch. She's been hearing about us talk about Overwatch a lot. So then it basically went... Oh, there's a team near me. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, yeah, I'll root for Vancouver. That sounds fun. And so, yeah, she's a Vancouver fan now. And at one point, I think she described them as having a runaway success. And I'm like, do you know how apt that is?
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't know if you know, but that's real funny.
Well, yeah, it's Vancouver Canuck colors. I thought there was some connection between them and the Seahawks, but I might be wrong.
I think it's only just vaguely geographic location, and also that is Seahawks colors, that shade of blue and that shade of green. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I think that's a real good way to draw in your Washington and possibly, maybe Seattle crowd. Not Seattle, your Washington and Oregon crowd.
Yeah. No, it definitely is.
Your blue and your green. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm gonna have to research this in greater detail at some point, because I don't know where I heard this now, and I'm questioning my sanity.
It's because it's Seahawks colors and they're in the right area.
No, I heard someone say that, and I don't know if they were talking shit.
No, there's nothing wrong with liking a team that's near you, and there are a lot of people who are thrilled, that they now have home teams.
Yeah.
So
it just.
I'm going to talk about this in a minute.
It just makes me sad that people don't seem to, in general, know that this was like a 1.5 year long Cinderella story. Like, and now they are the baddest guys on the block.
Again, this is why you're the expert.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that if I weren't doing this podcast with you.
Yeah, and also they have... also, the story behind it is really sweet, because after Runner, who was the guy who founded the team, ended up going to compulsory military service, his wife, who, is one of the other most popular streamers in Korea, basically said she was going to take over the team and not let his dream die because he couldn't be affiliated anymore. And under her leadership, the team got the championship that had eluded them for over a year. And she was talking to him afterwards, you built this incredible thing. You had this amazing gift for finding these diamonds in the rough and showing people they're special. And he's like, no, that's you, because the best I ever got them was second place. And it's just
what?
they're so
These
they're,
good humans.
Yeah, and also she was there for the Vancouver Titans first game, and when she walked by in front of the crowd waiting to get in, the cheer went up and she looked genuinely so surprised that people knew who she was. It was adorable.
It's like, yeah, hello there.
Yeah. Anyway,
All right.
Runaway.
That is our team breakdown.
Well, I didn't get to their opponents.
Oh, that's right. Doesn't matter. It's Runaway.
Well, yeah. Next games: Paris, Chengdu, Guangzhou. Paris is a goats v goats matchup that should be played at a very high level, but Paris was kind of exposed in their last game against Atlanta, and Vancouver is sure to be taking notes, and they've kind of looked even stronger on goats anyway. Chengdu, and to a more limited extent Guangzhou, will kind of test the adaptability of the Titans, but they have the coaching staff, team play, individual skill, and like prior results that I don't know that I'd hold out hope for the Chinese teams to be the ones that break the curse. Guangzhou came close. They got the 3-2, but Titans has just looked better and better since then.
Yeah. And Titan, they've already played against them once. They've learned. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot more tape for Harsha and Nomi, I think, is their coach.
Yeah. So that is the team breakdown. We're going to do 90 minutes. No, we're not. We're doing at least 2 hours.
Aside from the tangents, we're under.
No, I was thinking 90 minutes for the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying aside from the tangents we got on, I did my bit.
We
went on 20 minutes of tangent. I got this info in what would have been an hour.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just laughing because that's how this goes.
I busted my ass for like 7 hours putting together these fucking notes today.
And I very much appreciate it. And hopefully next week, when we get to a more weekly basis, we won't have to do so much heavy lifting.
Yeah. My fucking throat is so dry.
Again, so it's my turn to talk about things. We have a new character.
Baptiste.
I am so excited for Baptiste. Oh my God. Sign me up. Just in terms of lore, we have a new support person, which thank you, who is X Talon.
Yes.
You see X Overwatch a lot. You don't ever see X Talon because that usually means, shuffled off this mortal coil, singing with the choirs eternal, etc.
It adds an extra little couple layers of gray there, doesn't it?
And he survived leaving Talon, which says something. And even just that little quick origin video, like, give me a full animated short with this man. Just show me these things, please and thank you. His gameplay looks like it's going to be incredible. And even just watching some of the pro streamers go at it, watching people play the PTR and bringing in Baptiste.
The pro pugs are interesting to see kind of what's going on with it.
Oh, yeah. And I was, again, watching Custis stream, and he was talking about it and saying, we talked about it as a team, we analyzed it. With that damage grid, with his ult, a Widowmaker doing headshots through that grid could headshot a 600 HP tank.
Yeah.
And absolutely wipe them out.
Yeah.
So he is going to... I don't know if he's going to be the Goats Breaker that we're looking for, but he's definitely going to make things more exciting.
It's him and the other buffs and nerfs that come through in that patch. Because you've made spam so strong with that. And I think, honestly, you could do bunker comps, throw down the damage matrix, and just fucking artillery barrage.
And you've got the jump and the grenade. He can't heal himself. And then there's that little immortality field, which we talk about support ults being what you need to survive a grav or a shatter or whatever. But that could also be clutch for something like that.
Yeah.
You're caught in a grav, you see the Diva Bomb coming in, and you throw that up for however long it lasts. And hopefully that'll get you out the other side.
Yeah.
So that's not an ult. Yeah. So that's going to be one of those things that is a huge game changer and could change the course of a fight without requiring the ult charge buildup.
I haven't gotten to experiment with it personally, and I need to watch those pro pugs in greater detail and just kind of figure out what I can from it before I make any predictions. But from what we've seen, apparently like Orisa Diva is going to kind of be the more ideal tank line in a post-Baptiste and, rest of the patch world.
And I would love to see some DPS, especially some hit scan, come back into play after
this. We'll see it. We will.
because I feel like those are going to be your characters that can really take advantage of that damage grid. And I know that's not the name for it, and I can't remember the name for it, but it's great.
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah, and honestly, if you have like Baptiste, Brig, maybe Zen with Orisa, Diva, and then Junk, you've got a ridiculous amount of spam and sustain. That's a really solid bunker.
You could also, because again, I watched the dev update, and they say, yeah, all that damage stacks. So you bring in a Mercy with a damage boost. You have a Zen with
Discord.
Thank you. How easily are you going to be wiping people out through that grid?
Very easily.
How quickly are you going to take out an enemy team's shield if
Very
they try to
quickly.
throw it down? Like,
It's
this
gonna be nuts. And
the teams that master that the quickest are going to be the teams that take whatever stage he comes out for.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is a meta that would actually favor Houston quite a lot.
Oh,
because Muma's very good at the Orisa. Honestly, I think Houston and London are going to benefit a lot from this.
And I'm expecting, I don't know what timing's going to look like, but given how long it took them to get Brigitte out, I'm giving the safe bet of stage 3.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it for stage
also,
2,
we have
but I'm betting stage 3.
Yeah, if the patch comes out in the next week or two, like if that gets rolled out live, then I could see it coming out in stage 2, because they are giving us a longer break between stages now.
Yeah, the break is over my birthday, which I'm sad. I was kind of hoping to be
Mine
at
too.
the arena in my birthday.
Mine too.
No!
So, yeah, we will definitely see how this goes.
But I'm very excited for Baptiste, and I would love to see Goats broken on a professional level, because
Yeah.
then we're going to have a chunk of time where it looks like Diva Orisa is the developing meta, but we're not going to have one set in stone meta. We're going to have a lot of, we built this comp around this, we built this comp around this. Well, we can try running dive again. We can do whatever. And it's going to be insane.
Yeah,
and it will
there's-
be super fun.
Yeah, there's gonna be some Wild West shit if it gets rolled out quickly.
Yeah.
Where we're gonna be seeing a lot of different compositions between different teams.
It's adding a new character tends to flip the table at the professional level. Especially, again, I bring up Brigitte because she broke dive, and people are still super salty about that, which
Yeah.
please stop. And it looks like we have a Goats Breaker in the works here, which I love because it takes them years, or at least a year, to build a new character.
Yeah.
It takes them a very long time. So Baptiste has been in development for longer than Goats has been a strategy,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah, although
I
Ash
just
was
love it.
Ash was fairly recent. Like I think also her kit probably had less kinks to work out than
I think
than
you're right
Baptiste's.
I think you're right about that. And Ash, it sounded like she came about as a character when they were building the short, and then they went, we love her, let's make her a character.
Yeah.
So they already had models, textures, etc.
Yeah.
And they had to work on gameplay, which I hesitate to say, oh yeah, you just redo a gunslinger character. Like, sure, it's that easy.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
There's-
It's never that
There's
easy.
less weird mechanics with her than there are with Baptiste.
Yeah. Baptiste just has some
Yeah.
really weird stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, the only one that would be particularly hard and I think really changes things in a big way for Ash is Bob.
I'd say Bob. I'd also say the dynamite with the lingering damage.
Well, we do have things that do tick. It's just different because Anna's damage is technically damage over time because you get one hit and then it's tick, 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 like the 3 ticks afterwards.
Okay. It seems to me like the dynamite lasts forever.
Oh no, it lasts longer and
It drives me crazy, and I hate it, but
Yeah.
it's such a great move.
it's more
Yeah.
damage over time. I'm just saying the mechanic is already in there.
Yeah. But they also have experience in bringing in different models for different characters, because Diva is 2 separate models
Yes.
in and out of mech,
Yes.
which is why she bugs out so hard sometimes,
Yeah.
and why at one point she broke the game, because she's a very complicated character on the back end.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I can see Baptiste being a more complicated build than Ash was, which doesn't diminish Ash's value as a character. It just means they play very differently.
Yeah,
Once Baptiste rolls in, I'd love to see more Ash play.
I think-
she
I think
never
we-
really got to be in the league.
Makes me wonder if the dynamite passes through the thing, will that go off? Like, how does it affect things that are unique, that are basically entities in and of themselves?
That's a fun question.
Yeah, because if it works like Mercy damage boost, it'll damage boost the damage over time afterwards.
I would imagine that it would then.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Oh my god, I can't wait to see Ash comps. Sign me up.
You could do some dirty shit with that.
Oh yeah. No, I would love for them to implement it in League as soon as possible because, again, they're going to flip the table.
Yeah.
And if League happens while that recovery from that table flip is happening, it is, I hesitate to say anyone's game because we've picked out some front runners and we've picked out some people who really need help. But everyone who's not the top or the bottom couple teams could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
No, it's true.
I'd still put my money on NYXL and Vancouver in that situation because they're NYXL and Vancouver. But like you said, Outlaws and London could have a really good shot at this.
Yeah. Vancouver, I don't know how they're going to deal with that actually a little bit. Just because Bumper's improved his Winston a lot. He's done a good deal on his Reinhardt, obviously. But I don't think I've ever seen him play Orisa.
This is true.
Yeah, and Runaway's always been a team that, like, they haven't historically played a lot of the heroes that I think will be enabled by this metagame. So it's going to be a test of their coaching and their ability to adapt to see how it goes, because they honestly, like, when they have time to adapt to a meta, they end up becoming one of the superlative teams in it by the end. They're one of the best dive teams by the end of the dive meta. They're probably the best GOATS team right now. So,
but when a new meta starts, God help them.
Yeah, and they have more staff now, and they've got, more synergy. Like, basically, they're in a better place to really try and change now than they were in the past, but who knows?
So yeah, I'm very excited for Batiste, and I'm very excited for the changes it'll bring, because again, we've spent this whole podcast dogging on how boring GOATS is to watch.
You have.
So I have. You can appreciate the tiny details. I'm real fucking tired of steak and potatoes, you guys. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out which one to swing in next to, because we have two, for me, relatively salty topics. We have the fandom at large, and we have merch. And I think I want to talk about the merch for a little bit.
The merch one I think we can honestly cover a little more quickly as well.
It's not great, you guys.
It's really not.
It's really not.
And
I was very excited for this T-Mobile Tuesdays thing with the, X amount of dollars off and do this. And I went, great. Because for me, I don't have T-Mobile, but I know people who do. And they were more than happy to be like, oh yeah, here's my code. Go, be great. And so I did. And I bought myself a Valiant shirt. And I bought myself a Hangzhou shirt because I am on. Oh my god! What?
There's a post on. Oh my god! There's a post on. No. There's a post on Reddit that if you look up Defran Fanatics jersey just on Google, this was a post someone put up on Reddit of what they got when they ordered a Defran jersey. The number, everything that would be red on the back, that would be on a black background, looks orange and super faded. And it just looks like fucking crap.
It looks like it was printed black on blue. You can't read that.
No, you really can't. The colors are completely off. The texture of it looks bad. It's come like really wrinkled too.
And it looks super cheap. Like you can see the edges of those letters starting to peel up.
Yeah, people are just not happy with the quality of the Fanatics merch, which is interesting considering how much time they have making jerseys, considering they do it for professional sports teams for a good long while.
And personally, and I kind of went on a tear about this a little earlier today because I ordered the shirts. And, women in esports and merchandise, and people do us not terribly well. There was a dress design that came out recently, like, hey, women in esports, we hear you, here's this dress. And the design looked like a gaming chair, and it had a boob zipper, and it was just not great. And so we're like, women, they don't design for women in esports. And then I received my shirts from the Overwatch League shop as provided by Fanatics. The sizing chart, oh my god, that's terrible. The NYXL hoodie and the print's already coming off. That's really bad. But for me, it's poorly sized.
Yeah.
Like, I know my size. I know my measurements. It was a full size off, at least. Yeah. Very, very thin shirts for the women's.
Oh.
Very thin. So, like, for the Valiant, it's a green shirt with a yellow logo. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, thin shirts for that. I've done this game before. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
The Hongshou shirt, the team whose colors are hot pink and electric blue, they're like, let's give you a white shirt. Let's give the women a white shirt with this ridiculously thin fabric. With this, doesn't matter what bra you wear with that, everyone's gonna see it. Hope you're not cold in the Blizzard Arena where it's super cold. Like, it's just this... I can exchange one shirt for another size and still be like, I only paid $5 total for this thing with the T-Mobile discount. I cannot wear that Hongshou Sparks shirt, and I am beside myself angry because Hongshou is the team that I don't have merch for yet, and I want something that fits me, which is like, hey, women's cut shirts. What a fucking novelty.
Yeah.
And they have every single piece of merchandise is categorized not as unisex, but as men's. And then if you look at women's, it's one shirt per team. And for Hongshou, they went for white, and I can't wear it because it's fucking see-through. And it just...
You guys can't see online, but I'm like staring into my webcam like I'm fucking Ben Wyatt. Like, just because this is so goddamn typical.
It would be so easy. Like, well, what do we design for girls? The same thing that you would design for guys, except that maybe fits them with
Just-
solid fabrics and easy wear and comfort and, you know, just a slightly different
Just
cut.
acknowledge that, like, weight and stuff is distributed differently on a woman's body. It's not that hard. People have been making clothes for it for fucking hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Thousands of years.
And I mean, I like a V-cut. I like a low neck.
Do it. Like,
Like, I love a V-cut. I love a low neck. I really like the way women's top fit me because my collarbone is amazing and I like showing it off. I say to our audio listeners. And so having an option to be like, oh, this is something that isn't crew neck. Oh, this is something where I can wear a really nice necklace with it or whatever. Great, cool, awesome, sign me up. Oh, what do you mean it's fucking see-through? These are the sort of shirts where I'd be afraid to put them through more than one wash for fear that they would fall apart in my dryer.
I'm actually going to interject as another woman who's an avid fan of esports. This was the equivalent of them selling us a lace bikini. There's no point to it. It's like nobody thought before, sending that through and went, okay, that's going to be practical. Like a white bikini or a lace bikini, you don't see those at the beach. And there's a good reason why.
Yeah, they keep nothing in. They're things that you wear under lighter shirts.
That, and then when they're see-through when they're wet, God forbid you sweat.
Yeah. Yeah, and then again, this is Blizzard Arena where it's really cold and you have a really thin shirt. Like, one, you don't want to layer because you're covering up your team colors. And two, not everyone wears padded bras and it's cold in the Blizzard Arena and the shirt is white. Like, I don't think there are any women working at Fanatics in a design or decision-making capability, because I'm aware that the buck does not always stop with the designers, and there's a very large decision-making chain that it has to go through. But I'm pretty sure that there are no women there, because who would have passed this? With the size chart being terrible, with the quality being ridiculously thin, and again, our only option if we want something that even vaguely fits is a white see-through shirt. Like, the one thing that they're doing right in terms of women's apparel is that they have a large range of sizes.
Which,
like, that's the only thing that they're doing well. And it's great that they're doing it well. But goddamn, there's no point in buying a shirt in any range of size if you can't wear it and it falls apart in the wash.
Pretty much.
I hate spending $30 or $50 or however many dollars on a shirt for it to just the first time I run it through the washing machine.
And
I hate it.
These look like they're a serious risk for that.
They are. I received them today and I took it out and I tried it on and I went, oh no, why? I've been waiting for these for a week and a half. So yeah, I am super disappointed in the merch. In other news, I am investing actual money in a unique piece of fan merch that I'm hoping to receive sometime within the next, month. So if that turns out the way I like it, I'll definitely be showing that off. But I don't want to give any brands or anything, because reasons.
Yeah, because don't give free endorsements.
Yeah. Well, no,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
will
yeah.
for these
know,
people
I'm
if I
joking.
get it.
Yeah, I'm joking because I
Support-
know you know them. But,
Support your fellow creators.
Yeah, exactly.
But the long and very short of this is we want merch. We want it to be well made. We want it to fit. And we want it. And if it is well made and fitting, we will throw so much money at you in
Yeah.
order to obtain it. But when it sucks, we'll support our other creators. We will support the people doing the silk screening, the people on TeePublic or TeeFury or wherever they are. We will support the fan people who actually understand what fans of all genders want. So get your act together, fanatics. This is not acceptable.
Yeah,
That
this
got
is,
saltier than I expected. Woo.
Yeah, a little bit. Like there was a part
This
of me.
happens to me so often.
I know there's a part of me that wanted to like at the end of the bit just be like, well, anyway, here's Wonderwall. But like, you got so legitimately mad. I'm like, I don't want to be a dick. And like,
I would have flipped your chair
yeah,
with you in it.
I would have helped.
yeah,
Yeah, so it just, and again, this is continually like
yeah.
the continuing rage of why is there no women's anything? Why don't they believe we're gamers? Why don't they believe we're fans? Why don't they believe we spend money? My continual scream is, for the love of God, Overwatch, give us jewelry, you beautiful idiots.
Yeah.
And then when they did, they gave us beaded bracelets based on Genji and Soldier 76, when it would have been a perfect opportunity for a Zenyatta bracelet. Zenyatta, who has a shirt and otherwise no merch. No, the statue. But it's just one of those things, like, they don't seem to understand that we will wear the hell out of really nice jewelry. If I could get a nice little Valiant
Yeah.
logo or a nice little Symmetra turret
Yeah.
as a drop pendant on a chain, I can't wear my Overwatch League jersey to work. I can wear the hell out of a nice little gold Valiant logo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm disappointed with the state of merchandise in gaming, and specifically right now with Fanatics.
Fanatics.
Get your act together.
Fanatics, your plebs.
Yeah, just do better. Do better. And I realize that's
Shout
so
out to
so
Greg
easy.
Miller.
Jeez. Oh my god, just everything. Just oh my god, do better. Why are you not? It would be so easy. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the other thing that I'm going to try not to be as salty about is the current state of the Overwatch League fandom. And this is one of those things, it's kind of hard to quantify.
Yeah.
Because we've also got some salt coming down from some of the casters, and I can't say I appreciate that, because it smacks a little bit of gatekeeping. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, well, hopefully it's been deleted by now, but probably not. But the long and very short of it is, with expansion teams and with viewing on Disney XD and with all of the marketing that Overwatch League has been doing to try to bring in more viewers and therefore more money, they're succeeding. We're bringing in more viewers. We're bringing in a lot more fans. I mentioned my friend who is now getting into Overwatch League and considering buying a Vancouver shirt, God help her, those shirts, because she has a home team now and she plays Overwatch, and hey, they have someone to root for. I know people who have 5 or 6 teams that they love, like me. I know someone who loves individual players but knows that they will get overly passionate if they settle on one team and get really upset if they don't win, and therefore they abstain from the team colors aspect of things, but they still watch and they still love it.
Yeah.
We have a lot of new people. And I think with that, we also have a lot of new sports fans, because I would imagine that there are a good number of people who are now into the Overwatch League who have never been fans of team sports.
Yeah.
Either they're too young, or baseball, football, whatever, never really appealed to them. But Overwatch League, esports, this is their language. This is what they like. And with that, when you've been a fan of sports for a while, when you have a football team that you've loved for a decade, or a baseball team, or hockey, or, pick your poison, whatever you like, when you have thrown in for a sports team for a good amount of time, it comes with a good amount of experience, because regardless of who you root for, eventually they're going to lose, and eventually they're going to have a losing season, and sometimes they have many losing seasons back to back to back. And when you have that experience, when you've weathered those seasons, you learn how to deal with it. And I say that as a Minnesota Vikings fan, a Denver Broncos fan, an Air Force football and basketball fan who lived through the Fisher DeBerry years. Like, you've got really, really good seasons. And then you have seasons where you watch the games, you root for your people, you love them, but man, you just know that this is not going to go well. And I think a lot of new Overwatch League fans don't have that experience.
Yeah.
And we also have this social media culture where if you're mad at something, if you have an opinion, if you're upset, you can immediately reach out to the source of your ire and express it.
And also scream it from the rooftops in the most hyperbolic way possible, and there's no repercussion for that.
Yeah, there's a level of direct accessibility that didn't always exist.
Yep.
And so we have a bunch of people who don't know how to handle their team losing. Like right now, it's easy to be an NYXL fan. And I'm not saying it always has been. I'm saying right now it is. Right now, it's easy to be a Vancouver fan. Right now, thank you. Yeah, Microsoft agrees. Right now, if your team is winning, if your team is doing extremely well, it's very, very easy to be a fan of a team who's doing well. I am a fan of the Valiant, the Gladiators, the Spark, and the Outlaws. At one point last week, the highest ranked of my teams was spot 14. And having been a... Good Lord. Thank you.
There's always
so many
some
updates.
Updater. Let me just
They're like, stop it.
fucking funnel all noise through my headphones. No more of this nonsense.
But the long and short of that is, I've had the experience and lived through all of this and know that, yeah, my team is having a rough time, and I will scream into the void about it to my friends, to my roommate. But when it comes to actually tweeting members of the Valiant, it will be, you know, you guys tried really hard. You had a really good play here. This was great. You support in, you scream out. If you're mad, that's fine. Be mad. But pick a place to be mad. Understand that these players that you've just watched play are easily twice as upset about their loss as you are. And people who have this experience, find the new sports fans and talk to them. Offer to be the person that they vent their frustrations of the match to. Kind of talk them down like, yeah, this was a really rough fight. Like, oh yeah, no, this was a hard one to watch. But hey, remember this play here that was really great? Hey, remember this other time? Well, let's talk about this thing. Well, let's armchair quarterback or armchair shot call together, because it keeps you from going and yelling at the team who are doing their best, even if they're not doing well, are doing their best, and really don't need to hear it from the people that are supposed to be there to support them.
Yeah.
There's a way to be a good fan, and a lot of people are capable, and a lot of people have not yet learned how to do it.
Yeah, and you can also be critical and not be an asshole.
Exactly.
Like,
but again, that's something where you talk to your friends, you talk to other fans. Assume that whatever feedback you have, the coaches have already picked up on it and are offering it in a way that will best help their teams.
And probably know what they're talking about better than you do.
Yeah. I mean, they are the paid experts for this. This is what they do. This is their jobs. They're good at it.
Yeah.
For the most part. So be better. You know, support in, yell out. If you haven't done this before, if this is your first sports experience, find an experienced fan and ask them, like, how did you weather this? Hey, Shanghai fans, how did you deal with last year? Or find a sports person who has been a fan of football or baseball or forever. Find a Cleveland Browns fan and ask them about that 0 and everything year. It's the Cubs, isn't it? Was it the Cubs or the Sox with the curse?
Well, the answer to that is yes, but...
The curse of the Bambino specifically.
Yeah, that's the Sox, whereas the Cubs just didn't until recently win until before the Ottoman Empire dissolved.
Point being, find a fan who has been at this longer than you have and who understands how to weather the rough times. Talk with them, learn from them.
In short, just don't be toxic to people on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, that's all this really comes down to. Yeah. Is the fact that, like, people shouting, stuff on Reddit and Twitter, the spaces that these players go and can see this. And yeah, maybe a lot of them definitely are at the point where they will see someone being crappy to them online and don't give a shit just because one, they're here and you're not, or they have just developed a thick skin or whatever. But it doesn't change the fact that it makes it hard for a lot of people. It makes it difficult. And, even though they're paid professionals, at the end of the day, we're all here to have fun.
Yeah.
It's not worth just trying to make other people feel shitty or miserable about, because if anything has been shown repeatedly by the struggles that people have gone through in the league, it's that they take this more seriously than you probably do.
Oh yeah, this is their jobs.
Yeah, well,
this is what they do.
When Shanghai lost, there was times where you could see Dia fucking crying. You had Effect dealing with the struggles of his team, as well as a whole bunch of other, interpersonal issues in, his own life that just made the poor guy have like a nervous breakdown. You've gotta just... This is hard. This is stressful. And the thing is, unlike traditional sports, these guys don't really get a fucking break. Because baseball players, they may go to the gym and practice, just as much. But the fact is, I don't think there's any sport out there where the daily practice is like 12 hours. Because here's the thing. You get up, you play comp to warm up, and you stream. And then you go play a 2-hour scrim block. You get lunch, you play another 2-hour scrim block. You go play a whole bunch more comp. Like, this is...
2 and 3 a days in football, but that is like boot camp time. That's not always a normal practice time.
Yeah, that's not constant.
That's an extreme.
Yeah, and that's not an abnormal schedule. And like Shanghai, if you read, about their schedule last season when they're trying to, get
Put
that
together
first
something
win,
that'll work.
they were fucking like, it's torturous. And the other thing is, when you're working out, you get an endorphin rush. You get in shape. It has a positive effect on your mental health. You also have millions of dollars to deal with whatever problems you might encounter. You don't have that here. When you're playing online, like, you're kind of on your own a lot of the time. You're sitting alone in a room, for good or bad. Some people like that, some people don't like that, but sitting in a room for like 12 fucking hours a day isn't necessarily the healthiest thing to do, physically or mentally. And
well, they do have team gyms, they do have team workouts. Like, they do their best to mitigate it, but the long and short of it is, they're still working really hard on this.
Yeah, it's like, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, they're just playing video games, how hard could it be? And that's the thing where I'm like, all right, chill the no. Just no.
I think those are people who may not be inside of the league. Or again, those are new fans who may not really be a part of this yet. And that's the other part of this that I want to go into. Like, one, it is hard on the teams. It's better now that most of them aren't playing 3 or 4 times a week. It's helped.
Yeah, they were never playing 3 or 4 times a week, but they were playing twice a week, always, sometimes back to back. Now you could possibly have a bye week. Now you're not playing twice a week all the time. You have longer breaks between stages to help prevent burnout. Like, they took consideration for the difficulties that you have just in terms of your mental health playing this. Because here's the thing. Say you're working at a job and you start off really liking it. How many people have started off a job that you really liked and you're really passionate about, but when you're doing it, 5-6 days a week, and you're doing it for like 6 to 8 hours a day, how fucking fast do you get sick of that? Without people telling you fucking suck, or that you should quit, or things like that.
That's when it becomes retail.
That's my food service career in a nutshell. But
but the long and short of that is, again, be kind to the players. They are trying. They do make mistakes because they're human, and it's a video game.
Just
but
don't be a dick and support your boys. That's it.
New fans, learn from the old fans. Old fans, do not discount the new fans just because they're new.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to come in knowing what an ult economy is. Yeah. Not everyone's going to come in immediately knowing that GOATS refers to 3-3 strategy. Like, not everyone's going to know everything you do because you have the advantage of having been an Overwatch League fan for the previous season, or because you have the advantage of having been a sports fan for however long and knowing how sports fandom goes and how to weather the tough times. So... share your experience, be kind to each other on both sides, reach out.
Yeah, just generally, don't be dicks.
Also, don't boo other teams. Don't judge people for the teams they like. This isn't like going, oh, you're a Patriots fan. Like, being a Patriots fan is not the same as being an NYXL fan. There's no, oh no, this team is shady, or oh no, this team cheats, or there hasn't been enough time for a lot of these teams to have that kind of history.
And when a thing happens, they resolve it pretty quickly.
Oh, they take care of it.
See how fucking quick Dreamcasper was gone. See how fucking quick Undead was gone.
Yeah, so basically, don't judge people for liking teams. And for the love of God, don't judge people for liking more than one team. Because this is where the paid fan bullshit comes in.
Okay,
and this is pants on head stupid.
Every time I see that on a Reddit post, I'm just like, you've never been there, have you?
And the thing is, because it's in LA and a lot of people can't travel out here.
Yeah.
And more when I go to the arena, I meet people, oh, are you from here? Yeah, how about you? Oh, I came in from Houston. Oh, I came in from here. Oh, I came in from there. Like, I ran into a couple.
Boston on the first day there that Boston actually flew out because one of them posted on Twitter that they had like a Boston bumper, not bumper sticker, that a Boston license plate. For the uprising, and they're like, you guys should be here opening week.
Yeah, and on Pride Day, I sat with a Shock fan who had driven down from San Francisco that morning to be at the match. And I got in line for the matches at like 8:30 a.m., and he beat me there. So there are people who are super dedicated. There are people who are super into it. And there are people who like more than one team and have merch for more than one team. I'm one of them. And a lot of times there, you see them in the front a lot.
I am too. I have a jersey sitting right there.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, because they're there, they're enthusiastic, and, well, they were wearing a Shock jersey yesterday, and today they're wearing a Hongsho jersey, and tomorrow it's going to be Valiant, so they must be paid to be there. Like, or they just really like multiple teams and have disposable income. It's so
Which I know
weird.
Disposable income is hard to picture in this day and age. But yeah.
It's so weird to me that people look at someone else having passion for a thing they love and think that there's no way they could do that.
I'm gonna be real, like, for a good long while, like, I felt like the paid fan thing was a joke, and then some people started to buy into it.
Yeah, well, Plat Chat was always a joke.
Plat Chat was always...
And paid chat was always a joke.
I've been accused of being a paid fan once.
Really?
But yeah, it was just because... It was joking, but there was one time during a Fuel game, the camera turned to me and I just did this... I just turned towards the camera and gave a big exaggerated just...
Thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up and smile.
And the chat turned into a lot of seems good mans and paid thumbs up, and it was obviously, they're taking the piss, but...
Yeah, I mean, Overwatch League chat is kind of it's own thing.
I just don't watch Twitch chat.
I have it open because I want the drops, but I honestly don't follow along because
it's
too hard to follow.
I minimize chat. It's too distracting. Like, it sets my ADD way the fuck off.
Yeah. But essentially... People are there. People pay to get in, for one. You pay money for those tickets. It's what keeps the lights on in the Blizzard arena. Mm-hmm. But also, you pay money for a thing that you're passionate for. You're there because you love it. And I think this is the downside of having some fans who have been long-standing sports fans, because there are a lot of long-standing sports fans where you are only a Browns fan, you are only a Rams fan, you are only a Rockies fan, you are only a this team fan. Yeah. And they see liking multiple teams within the same sport as some sign of disloyalty. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I just rattled off the 4 teams that I'm rooting for, and they're not all doing super well right now, but I still love them. And people will accuse me of, oh, you're a paid fan. And I'm like, also, no, I'm not. I just like 4 teams.
If you have to hate anyone, hate me. I'm a Yankees fan. Like...
How dare.
My family, my family's from the Bronx. Fuck you. Like,
look, I'm a Broncos fan and my roommate is a Raiders fan. About once a year we kind of eye each other like angry cats, but the rest of it, really, who cares?
Yeah.
It's all, again, that's the downside of taking the passion too far and not believing that other people have it.
Again, short version, just don't be a dick.
Yeah. Wheaton's Law.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
Pretty much.
Reach out to people. Care about other people. kindness in yelling out. Just,
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah.
And if you can't, get the fuck out of the fandom because I don't want to talk to you. I've learned that the block button is a good and lovely thing to have these past couple weeks, and oh boy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've been dealing with some Voltron stuff.
With a different fandom.
Yeah.
The Overwatch League fandom still has hope, and a lot of it, which is why I'm encouraging you all to be kind to each other and to bring in the new people and embrace them in your kindness and show them good ways to express their passion and their fandom.
Mm-hmm. I haven't had to use the block button on Twitter yet. I've gotten blocked literally once, actually. Only once. And that was a fucking funny conversation. But
I think we've talked about this already.
Yeah, I got blocked for calling the First Order incompetent.
That was funny.
Yeah, that.
Yep.
Which, if you have a problem with that, I'm sorry, but they are.
I mean, Stormtroopers is a joke, and First Order troopers are stormtroopers with shinier armor.
It's not even that, but I just said, like, look at the first scene of The Last Jedi, because military tactics in Star Wars are kind of pants on head usually.
Of course they are.
But this was worse than anything. And then they have your stand-in for your neo-Nazi, like, military commander get prank called. And if you want us to take your bad guy seriously, you don't tell Herman Goering you got a message from his mother. And you also don't immediately have him say a dumb thing. That fighter can't damage a dreadnought. And then immediately cut to another guy. He's not trying to damage the dreadnought. He's trying to kill the surface guns. And it's like...
Yeah.
Why isn't fucking Angry Man over there in charge? Because the nepotism hire clearly isn't working out for you.
I was gonna say, you shouldn't have been promoted. Yeah, you're a better leader than Kylo Ren, but you shouldn't have been promoted.
Well, but he
anyway.
actually is canonically a nepotism hire, though. But
woo.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got one last thing to knock out. After my feelings and salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Predictions.
Win-loss calls for Stage 1, Week 4. We kind of went through this long form, but let's just knock them out.
Last minute or two.
Thursday, Atlanta, for me, Valiant, and probably Toronto as much as I'd like to see Chengdu pull through.
Yes. Atlanta over Gladiators, Fusion over Valiant, and then Toronto over Chengdu.
Yeah. Friday, we have Paris, Vancouver, NYXL Shock, and Fuel Dragons. I'm picking... Paris, Vancouver's a tough one. I would like to give the edge to Paris there.
Really? I think it's going to be 3-1 or 4-0.
Oh, no, I'm mixing up my names. I was thinking, no? Yeah. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I had a moment of Vancouver and Toronto and went, wait.
One's French-Canadian.
Yeah, I did mix up my names. It's Titans. Yeah. I was definitely thinking Toronto.
Yeah, you mean Vancouver. You just...
Did I fuck it up again?
You just named another city in Canada.
Give up.
Titans,
who are they playing?
Titans are eternal. Titans are eternal.
Titans.
Okay.
I made these notes.
Yes.
Thinking that I would remember. New
York over Shock.
Oh, I'm taking the sucker bet. I'm going for the Shock. Okay. I would love to see that happen.
And then I'm picking Fuel over Dragons.
And I would pick Dragons.
Mm-hmm. Valiant versus Outlaws. I'm giving that to Outlaws.
I'd love to see Valiant. It'll probably be the Outlaws.
Yeah. Seoul is going to beat Washington.
Absolutely.
Charge is probably going to beat Gladiators.
Yeah, probably.
It's either going to be like 3-1 or 4-0 Charge or 3-2 Gladiators.
I'd love to see the Gladiators pull it together before this weekend and turn it around.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen, but I'd love to see it.
That's my call. Then Spark versus Toronto. I feel like it's going to be Toronto just because if nerves are a problem with Spark...
This'll hamstring them.
Because, again, their shot at getting into the playoffs is this match.
And I wonder if that week of early success and suddenly them being one of the teams to beat didn't just kill them.
They put them behind the 8 ball a little bit.
Yep, probably. I'd love to see Spark, probably Toronto. And then Sunday, Paris and
versus
Shock.
I think that's going to be Shock. Mm-hmm. London versus Shanghai. I'm going to go Shanghai.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to depend on what version of London we get, but yeah, I'd love to see Shanghai.
Florida versus Boston.
Boston.
Vancouver versus Chengdu.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad that this week Vancouver is... I hesitate to say they're the gimmies, but they're so strong against these teams.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Paris is going to play into their strengths, and Chengdu's strengths are negated by Vancouver's strengths. Mm-hmm. Because you can't pick them apart.
Yeah. They're too crazy.
Yeah. Well, they're
Bumper
too
will run in there and play ping pong with a wrecking ball.
They're too crazy, and they're also just so good at working together that dividing and conquering is a very difficult thing to do with a lineup that's both that talented and has that level of synergy.
Yeah, Bumper would be a feeder if his team wasn't real good at keeping up.
Yeah.
Which is a bad way to put it, but...
Well, yeah, the thing is, like, that same play would get people killed if the team didn't play behind you.
Yeah, if it was, I'd say, literally any other team.
Yes.
Would fall apart, pulling the tactics that Vancouver does.
Yeah, there's maybe... I want to say there's maybe one, but I couldn't name it. Like, maybe NYXL, but...
I don't think NYXL is that level of nuts.
They're not that nuts, but they are coordinated enough that I think they could embrace the madness.
True. I don't know, I'd love to see Houston do it. That level of insanity.
Houston's too timid in terms of play.
That's why I'd love to see them do it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they could, depending on who was there and what the meta was, I feel like they could stick together well enough to pull off some balls to the wall stuff.
I could see it.
Anyway, yeah. So that's the picks. We'll have to write those down and see how they shake out for next week.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we are On The Point Podcast. Remember, if you want to support us, you can go to fredsbs.com, fredsbs.com, use coupon code ONThePoint for 20% off of your order of cookies, brownies, etc. All of these wonderful things that you can have for snacks while you're watching the Overwatch League.
Yes. And I will also plug Watch Overwatch Pretenders. It's the amateur league that I play in. So if you want to see me play, watch Mercury Cougars games, and I am Cryptic over there. So.
And where can people find you on the social medias?
I'm on the Overwatch Pretenders Discord, but also on Twitter at @the_rage_nerd.
And I'm Katie. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. You can also follow this podcast on Twitter at OnThePointPod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also only realized that was like did that name come about because of Kingdom Hearts?
Yes. My name?
Yes.
Yes.
I only realized that fairly recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just because I hadn't thought about Kingdom Hearts a lot recently.
Oh, no, it's one of those things where occasionally someone goes, wait a minute, is that a nobody name? And I sit here and go, yes. And they go, what? I've been looking at it for weeks. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, my Twitter handle currently says obligatory nobody anagram, so I've had a slew of those going, wait. And I love it. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. We will hopefully be back
hopefully next week
to talk some results and some more predictions. And see if if any changes have been made in the fandom. I have hope. I have hope.
We shall see.
See you guys next time.
All right, have fun, nerds.